left off over here, we're speaking about the shtuki, where we know who the mother is. The mother is a kosher Jew, but we're not sure who fathered the child. So the Mishnah says shtuki is not permitted to marry a kosher Jew, because we're concerned about the pedigree of what? Of the shtuki. Someone says, although it should be permitted, because we have a, as we pointed out, is a svek. If factually whoever that person came to impregnate her was illegitimate, but factually the majority of people in existence, even if a non-Jew, a slave, other than an incestuous relationship, or a mamzer, which is a minority, the child's a kosher Jew. So why don't we allow the child, the shtuki, although we're not aware of the paternal parentage, the child should be permitted. So why isn't it permitted? That's the worst question. Torah Omer lo yovo mamzer, mamzer vadi hud lo yovo, a mamzer sofik yovo bekal. Right? It says a definite mamzer under Torah is not permitted to marry. But a sofik mamzer, it's no worse than a sofik mamzer, but it's even less than a sofik mamzer, because as we just said, you have a svek. Vadi hud lo yovo, ho bekal, sofik yovo, bekal vadai. Hamamza Sofik Yovo, Bekal Vadahud Lo Yovo, Hobekal Sofik Yovo. So they speak about this. This last piece has no relevance to the Gemara. Right? We'll talk about him. He may be a Sofik Mamzer. We don't know what he is. At worst, he's Sofik. Gemara says even he's a Sofik, but factually, the Torah says only if he's a definite Mamzer, he's not permitted. But then it continues. Bekal Vadahud Lo Yovo, Hobekal Sofik Yovo. Right? I mean, that's not relevant to our discussion here. Right? Because we're talking about allowing a shtuki to marry a kosher Jew. So we're speaking about marrying into a kalvadai. So what does it conclude? The kalvadu l'yovo, but kal sofik yovo. Right? Okay. So they talk about the achronim. Umatam omru shtuki posul. So Gemara says. So right now the Gemara says based on the principle of illegitimacy, would not be a problem. Would not be a problem. So why don't we allow the shtuki? The Mishnah says that shtuki, where we're not aware of the paternal parentage of the child. We don't allow the child to marry a kosher Jew. Here, there's a concern that he may marry his sister. We're not sure who the father is. If he marries a kosher Jew, maybe the woman he marries may be the child of his father, which is so far-fetched, which is so remote. Doesn't make a difference, but we'll see. Shemi Yisa Achosim Yoviv. The Gemara goes and dismisses in a minute. The Gemara says, Elamiato shtukis lo yiso. So if that's the case, if the question is not the illegitimacy, but the issue is he may end up marrying his sister, where they share a common parent, the father. So how do we, if you have a woman who has a similar situation, we're not sure who her father was. How do we allow the shtuki to marry her? They may share a common father. Why is that a concern? Right? When we're not sure about, but the parentage, we're saying there's a concern. The person may end up marrying his sibling, his half-sibling. So how do we allow the shtuki to marry shtukas if that's the issue? Shem Yisa Chosim Yoviv. Gemara says Kol Ki Hani Miznu Va'azlik. Right? So he says to that degree we're not concerned. We don't say what the father, what he had so many illicit affairs that we're not. It's going to concern that the shtukas, this other, must have been some other man fathered the girl. It's not the same person. Samar says, Bashtukis lo yiso, sham yisa chosem yoviv, elo lo shchicho. So what about the daughter of a shtukis? Let's say the daughter of a shtukis, he shouldn't be permitted to marry. Shemiyiso achosem yoviv. Elo shchicho. The answer is it's something which is remote. We're not concerned. Hochanam elo shchicho. So why? Elo malo osab yuchsim. We find throughout Shas is meaning really on a halachic level. It's totally what? It's permitted. But when it comes to pedigree, we want it should be. Normally we say milselo shchich lo goes b'rabbanan. Something which is remote, we don't legislate fences. something which is remote. This is not offense. We're talking about setting a standard of pedigree of what the Jewish people are. That's called malos abusim. It's like the Mishnah says in Chagiga, there's certain malos of Torah, of purity. Let's say relating to truma, to kodshim. Even though on a Torah level it doesn't contaminate, but because of the distinction of something which is consecrated, or something which is truma, they legislated many things that it should be at the most pristine level. When it comes to pedigree, they want to maintain it to be the ultimate. Even though halachically you covered many times over, but unless you definitely know, it's like above reproach. That's the concept of malos abuse. I'll give you an example. It's a famous Ramban. Ramban says in Parshas Noso, it says during Vayisheni, there were no longer Nisim Galuyim. Right? There were no revealed miracle, Vayisheni. But there was one revealed miracle that remained. What is that? Mesota. Mesota. Right? That if a woman was a suspected adulteress, she was forewarned by her husband not to sequester herself with a man. She went and she claimed her innocence. You administer the Mesota. What happens if factually she did commit adultery? So the Torah describes what happens to her. She bloats and swells and she dies. And not only she, even the adulterer who committed adultery with her, he experiences a similar fate. It's a Nezgolui. So if by Sheni, during the Second Temple period, there were no longer Nisim Gluyim, revealed miracles, why this miracle did Hashem keep in place? So he says that since we're talking about the Yichus, the pedigree of the Jewish people, it has to be above reproach. There should never be a question regarding the pedigree of a Jew. To weed out any level of illegitimacy, it should never even be a question. That's the reason why Kodesh Baruch Hu left this Nezgolui in place. That's the concept of malos abusim. When it comes to the pedigree of the Jewish people, it has to be above reproach. So really, rove, svek, you have every reason under the sun why not. Why it should not be, doesn't make a difference. It has to be, nobody can ever say a word, what exactly is the purity of the Jewish people. That's the reason. Not simple. I mean, a woman's belief to say who the man was. It's where she doesn't divulge who the man was. I mean, the women are impregnated. Let's say woman is carrying the child. No, sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they don't know. And you have cases. Today to adopt a Jewish child is very difficult. Unfortunately, today it's more easy. At one time, it was nearly impossible. You were able to adopt in Europe a child that was Jewish because either it was a plague and a whole town could die, and the family and there were children that were left. So other Jews adopted that child. So firstly, you knew the pedigree of the child. You knew the parentage. So it was never a question of a brother marrying a sister. It was never any of that. Never ever worried about that. And one time, but let's say after the war, I mean, premarital relations among Jews, it was less common. So it was less common. So what kind of child could you adopt? Right? Only a non-Jewish child. Today, unfortunately, you're able to adopt children who are Jewish, but unfortunately, it could be, where the woman, she wasn't observant, she became pregnant, then she regretted what happened, and then she gives up the child for adoption. It's a Jewish child, which is not so simple. Not so simple. Ramosha really discourages it, because since the parentage of the child usually is kept secret, so that child, when it comes to getting married, does he know who he's marrying? Doesn't know who he's marrying, right? So therefore, you're better off with a non-Jewish child, because a non-Jewish child, it's like it's a newborn child. So this issue is never an issue. That's what he speaks about when he speaks about artificial insemination. It's always best to be artificially inseminated with a non-Jew sperm than with a Jew sperm for that same reason. Because maybe there's multiple people could be inseminated with a Jew sperm. You could have brothers marrying sisters, which becomes a problem. Therefore, it's better not. It should not be a Jew sperm. It's your Moshe finding. Okay? But malos abusin. V'amaravid var Torah asufi kosher. On a Torah, what's an asufi? You don't know the parentage of it. It's an abandoned child. You find the child abandoned, and the majority of the people in the community are Jewish. Are Jewish. So if it's abandoned with the majority of goyim, so the presumption it's a non-Jew. You go after Rove. But it's being bad. It's abandoned in a location where the majority of the people are Jewish. My timer. So asufi also, we don't allow that child to marry an ordinary Jew. My timer. What? It's no, on the Torah level it's kosher. It's kosher. My timer. What's the reason? Eishes ish b'bala toleh. That if she's a married woman, so the presumption is it's what? The child's from her husband. We say rov bilas acharabal, right? The Gemara says, how do we know rov? How do we know rov? Because we say the majority of relations between a husband and wife, it's the husband. That's rov. So eishes ish balato the mayiko. What are we concerned? Iko miut arusos. There's a minority of women where they're married, but they're not fully married. They didn't consummate the marriage, and they committed adultery. A woman, her husband went overseas, so you can't say Rabbi Saharabal, husband isn't around, and she all of a sudden she's expecting. So what is she going to do with that child? She's going to want to abandon it, right? So what are the issues in abandoned child? Firstly, maybe an arusa who committed adultery before the chuppah, so she wants to abandon the child to get rid of the child. So that's a part. Also, maybe a woman, when her husband was overseas, she had an illicit affair, she became pregnant, she also abandoned the child. So this is the reason why, to be suspect that the abandoned child is a mamzer, is illegitimate. But the Gemara says, but there's another side of the story. What about a single woman? As the married woman maybe became impregnated, a single woman could have become impregnated. Sometimes, because of circumstance, parents, they want to keep the child, but because they have no choice, and they abandon the child because it's hunger years, they're not able to actually support the child. That's why. So what do we have now? We have a 50-50. So palgu. It could either be from an arusa, a woman who committed adultery before the chuppah. It could be a woman whose husband went overseas, and she abandoned the child. But it could either be a penuya, a single woman who conceived and she abandoned the child, or it was hunger years, and the people had no choice but to leave the child, hoping for the best. Vator omro lo yovo mamzer b'kal Hashem, mamzer vadu lo yovo, ho mamzer sofik yovo b'kal lo sofik yovo. So that's what's the problem? It's a kosher Jew. It's a 50-50. B'kol vadu lo yovo, ho b'kal sofik yovo. Umatam omro asufi posel. So why do we say that asufi is posel rabbinically? Why do we say we treat him like an illegitimate child? Shemayisa achose mi oviv. Same story. Elimiato asufi asufis lo yisa. So what about if they're both of the same status? Two abandoned children, the girl and the boy, we allow them to marry. Shemayisa achose mi oviv ube mi imo. Kolhani shodi v'asli. Same, no, we would say. Same thing. It's a different types. A similar situation. It's a different. One is you don't know the parentage of the what. We'll see in a moment, because the Gemara is going to show that this is a case of an abandoned child, where the child is abandoned in a certain way where clear it indicates the child's a kosher child. Let's say a child was circumcised. The Gemara is going to say if this child was circumcised, even though he was abandoned, it was because of hunger. Because a woman who just wants to get rid of a child, she's not going to bother circumcising the child. If a child is found, let's say, dressed or racked in a certain way where the parent really, it shows the compassion of the parent for the child. So therefore, it's clear, it was circumstantial why the child was abandoned. It wasn't because the parent just wanted to get rid of the child, which would indicate illegitimacy. So that's the difference. In the case of the shtuki, we know the mother is. The child's not abandoned. There we question what the parentage, the paternal, who the father was. Here we have no idea. So if you find the child, we'll see. The Gemara has a whole various indicators that the child is a kosher child. Kolhani shodi v'azli basasufi lo yisa shema yisa choso. Gemara says lo shchiach. Hochanami lo shchiach. Same thing. El malos of yuchsin. It's because of the malos of yuchsin. Omer Rava Bar Huna. Motzu mohu. What about the abandoned child you find decircumcised? Ein bo mishum asufi. The child is not considered asufi. Meaning, regarding, there's a question of legitimacy. The child is illegitimate. So Rashi says, why? The parent, the mother, wouldn't have been bothered having the child circumcised. So why did she bother having the child circumcised? The answer is because the mother was concerned for the child. So why was it abandoned? It was because of what? She couldn't feed the child. And she was hoping for the best. What about Mishalti Hademeo? So Rashi says, either the child was, sometimes when you have a newborn child, they put him in a bunting to hold its limbs together. In a bunting, that's also an indication that the parent is child for the safety of the child. Or, the Gemara says, he quotes the Gemara in Nida, the Gemara says that the third trimester of pregnancy, when the husband cohabits with his wife, it's good for the woman and it's good for the child. Because the physical development of the child develops to the greatest degree to be considered a healthy, viable child. So if you find a child and the child is fully developed and healthy, a woman who has an illicit affair, that means she doesn't engage with the man continuously because it's an illicit affair. So therefore, as a result of that, the child physically is not fully formed. But a child who is looks like a normal, physically healthy child, that's an indication that what the child, that it was a permitted relationship. So why was it abandoned? It must have been abandoned because of what? Because of the circumstance, because of hunger. It was hungry as the parent couldn't provide for the child, that's why. Rashi is dupshati. Eivor Musukonim Yusharim, Ebo Mishum Asufi, the apostle who lo havi miskeno lei, hovedaito lashlicho elemachmas robin hushlach. So why was it abandoned? Because of hunger. Lishnachrina mishalte ademia Eivor of gedolim umuluben umazuros. The child is fully developed, viable, healthy. Ein ze mizano elam bebalo. She definitely, this was not from an illicit affair, but it was from her husband. Shemitoch tashmish todir havlad meluban muzuros kinam seches nido gimel chadoshim achronim. The last trimester, tashmish yofe liisha v'yofe lavlad. It's good for the woman. It's good for the unborn fetus. Tokach havlad mezuros umeluban. Okay. What about shaif mishcha umoli kuchlo? What about if you find the child was anointed, oil was put on the child, or the child was beautified? Kuchlo, they would put like some kind of coloring around the child's eyes. Also, that's an expression of love, of concern the parent has for the child, and that's clearly why was the child abandoned? Not because it was an illegitimate child. Rami chumra toli pitko v'toli kameyo ein bo mishum asufi. What about the child has chumri? So Rashi says, sharm shosun refuah. The child has some kind of something on its neck, like the Gemara. What? Herbs, like the Gemara says, like there were certain things to protect the child from ayin hara, or other things they wear, like garlic. These things around the neck. That's clear that the parent is concerned for the child. What about if it's what? 1 second. Pitko. It has. Pitko means it has like some kind of incantation, like an amulet. Or kameya, the different types of amulets. The child is wearing it. That's also an indication that it's a legitimate child. Toli pitko, kameya shel ksav. Different types of amulets.
You mean a non-Jewish person would do that?
No. Right. Correct. Well, first we're talking the majority. The majority are Jews. So you're going after rove. But the question is, maybe it's illegitimate. But if it's an abandoned child that's as a result of illegitimacy, the parent wouldn't be concerned for the welfare of the child. So why did the parent go to this extent? It clearly tells you the child is a legitimate child, but because of unfortunate circumstances, that's why the child was abandoned. First, that depends where if you're living in the Middle East or you're living somewhere else, or in even recently in the United States. Right. Wouldn't be an indication the child's a Jew. parent wants to just get rid of it. Otherwise, the mother would have kept it. It's a disgrace for the parent, right? So she just wants to get rid of it. She couldn't care if the child dies. Okay. 1 second. Toli b'dikli. Imachelo chayo yesh bo mishum asufi. Im lav im bo mishum asufi. What about you have a palm tree, and the mother abandoned the child at a height of the palm tree where an animal could attack the child, like at a lower branch. Well, let's say it's at the base of the tree. That's an abandoned child. Of course, the mother would be concerned for the safety. Let's say the mother puts it at a higher level where an animal is not able to get it. So that's an indication the mother's concerned for the child. What about zarduso smicha lamaso? There was a certain tree, it was called the zarduso. I'm not sure. How does he explain what zarduso is? Uzdarin. Produces like quinces. What? Sorb. I think zarduso, uzdarin usually quinces. Okay? If the tree is within the proximity of a city, the Gemara says in Psochim, minimally you have 60 demons in that tree. That's where they congregate. So which mother is going to put the child there? That means the mother's endangering the child's life. So that's Yeshua Mishum Asufi. Vim Lav, but let's say it's not within the proximity of a city, Eimbo Mishum Asufi. Bei Kinishto. Let's say the child is abandoned in a shul, which is within the proximity of a city, of a community. People go there. That means the child's protected. We're not considered mazikim. We're not concerned. People will find the child. She wants the child to be found. It'll be protected. Let's say it's out in the country, where the Gemara speaks about the mazikim, the demons or whatever out there. Yesh bo mishum asufi. Omer ha-meimar. Ha'pera de sufli. Yesh bo mishum asufi. You know, in the olden days, what do you think they fed animals? They would dig pits outside the city, and they would take the peelings and the stones of various types of fruits and vegetables, and they would throw it into the pit, and that's where the animals, that's where they would eat. They would fill up the pits, and animals, they would go there and they would eat. Let's say you found the child in the pit, with all this refuse, right? So then, Yeshba Musav Sufi. So Rashi says, I would say, because it's a question of danger, which mother would put it? Rashi says, because in these pits, since it's outside the city, it's Motzib Mazikim. You have Shadim over there. Charifta de Nohoro. Aimbo Mishum Sufi. Let's say you find a child put into like a basket, a floating basket, and it's put in the middle of the river, where other ships go, boats go, which the mother put it there so that it's clear, so the child should be noticed. That means the mother wants the child to be saved. Eimbo mishum asufi. That's an indication of the mother's concern for the child. So why is the child being abandoned? Because of circumstance. What about pashri? Yeshbum asufi. What about if it's along the bank where the snow melts and the child's not going to be found over there? That means the child was put there to drown, not to be noticed. Then it's what? Yeshbum mishum asufi. It's interesting. Just thought of this. You find, where did Yocheved put Moshe? Not in the middle. Along the side, where he won't be noticed. Seemingly, I mean, if she wanted him to be found, she would have been put in the middle. Right? As I'm saying here. The middle, when you put it, but where the current runs, where people actually, they frequent, she wants the child to be found. Yocheved, where did she put him? By the bulrushes to conceal him. How's he going to survive? No, that was her own initiative. Yocheved did not tell Miriam to watch. But that was her initiative. She was not instructed by Yocheved. So
who was until the children, so she had to balance where to put the child. In the middle, the Egyptians would see him.
Okay. So therefore, but if he's there, who's going to take care of him? The answer is Hashem will take care of him.
Right.
Because she put him in the basket anyway. Why didn't he strike the water? Because he should have drowned.
Right.
He should have drowned. So the whole thing, when she put him in the water, she was saying, look, this is my hishtadlus. I have to conceal the miracle. It's concealing a miracle. To take your child, throw him into the fire, say a miracle's going to happen, that's insanity. So you try to minimize it. You put it in a basket along the side to conceal him. How's he going to live? There's no question. Already it was prophesied that he's Moshe Shel Yisrael, except you have to minimize the miracle. So therefore, you put it along the side rather than in the middle. In the middle, where the Egyptian would find him, for him to survive there, the miracle is greater. So you always try to minimize the miracle. Therefore, he was hidden in the bulrushes for that reason. I always mention the Chazal, the Machlokas and the Medrash, the wood. It says, what was the basket made of? Balls of wood, right? So why did she choose that particular quality wood? So Rashi says, it's a Machlokas Rabbi. Is it because it's only b'fnei arach, b'fnei akosher? Because it's wood, which actually it's pliable. So even if it should bump into something, it's not going to break. Or it's because it's the cheapest wood. Yeah. So one opinion Medrash is because it was the cheapest wood. She chose to buy the cheapest wood because tzaddikim chavivim amodim yosim migufan. Because tzaddikim, they value the money more than their existence. So it would have been a waste. To spend more than the minimum, it would be a waste. Still saving Moshe's life. What do you mean chavivim amodim yosim migufan? So what I said was, there was no question Moshe wasn't going to drown. So why did she make the basket? She could have put him directly into the water. The answer is because whenever miracles take place, we try to conceal the miracle. So buying even the cheapest wood would have been sufficient to conceal the miracle. So therefore, spending more than you have to, more than for that purpose, it's a waste. It's a waste of money. That's tzaddikim chavim mamonim yosim migufan. Because she knew, again, she knew a miracle was going to take place. You conceal in bur, how's he going to survive? A miracle is going to happen. But how? God will perform, provide that miracle. Rishus harabim, yesh bo mishum asufi. Let's say the child's found literally in the location where the wagons go. So the child's going to be crushed to death, right? Trampled to death. So that's clear that the parent has no concern for the welfare, the safety of the child. Okay? Yesh bo mishum asufi. Omer Rava u'mishnei Ravon, ein bo mishum asufi. Yeah, Rava says, what about if it's hunger years? There's no indication it's a asufi. Because people during hunger years, like they behave irrational. We'll see. Hodu Rava Hayu. Rava, when he made this statement during hunger years, it's not an indication that it's an abandoned child because of its illegitimacy. Ilay ma'rushus harabim. Is it the person put the child literally where the wagon's going? The child's going to be crushed to death. I did the Shnei Reuven caught the leg. Do you mean because it's hunger years? A legitimate child, what the mother would want the child to be killed? The child's not going to be killed. It's going to be crushed by the wagons. Ella atzid rishus harabim. It's going on, putting it alongside where people walk, alongside, off the main route. What do we say? It's only because it's hunger years. That the mother chose to put him where people walk rather than in the middle, that's an indication the mother's concern for the safety of the child. Ella kitma du Rav Aho. The Omer Rav Yehuda, Omer Rav Abba, Omer Rav Yehuda, Bar Safti, Omer Rav. Kol zman shebishuk avimu nemonim olav. Here. Meaning, as long as the child is still in the market, is out there, then the child is not considered a Sufi. The child hasn't yet been taken out. We're speaking, all this is malos abuse. So if the parent, let's say, would come and claim the child and say, that's our child, before the child was taken, the parents are believed. Nesaf min ashuk ein emon olav. Right? But once the child is taken by someone, and now there was a question, word went out, what exactly is the pedigree of the child, then already the parents are not. Why? My timer, Amrava, hold the Yotzluk Shem Asufi. Again, once the stigma went on that child, it means the child's in question. Once the child's in question, then already we have the principle of Milos abuse. Unless the parents will not be believed. Before the child is considered an unknown entity, the parents are believed to identify it's our child. Once the child is taken, and there's a question, what exactly is the pedigree of the child, even the parents are no longer believed. One second. Omer Rovo, however, it's hungry years. Why? Because since of the circumstances, hungry years, it was their personal predicament. Because people understand. People abandon children continuously during hunger years. So therefore, even after the child is taken, it's what the one who finds the child, the person understands why was the child abandoned. Because everybody's having a tough time. Because it's really, people are starving. People are starving to death. Therefore, even after the child is taken, although the pedigree wasn't immediately known, the parents are believed. That's what Rav is speaking. Omer Rav Chizdo, Shlosha Nemon Alter. The three people who are believed immediately, as we said. If it would not be hunger years before the child is taken, we say the parents are believed to identify the child. Eloid Asufi, as we just said, before the child is taken from the street, found. The parents said that's our child, they believed. Chayo, what about a midwife? A midwife delivers children, and let's say one was a Kohen, one was a Levi, one Yisrael, to identify the pedigree of the child. 3 women give birth. Is she believed? As long as she's in the birthing room, she's believed. Because we say that her cognizance is there. Let's say she walked out, she went elsewhere, and she comes back. She's no longer believed because we're concerned because of a level of distraction that she had. This distraction will come back. She doesn't recall accurately. If she's there, she hasn't left the location, so she's fully aware of which woman gave birth to which child. So the wife of the Kohen, the child's a Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. However, when she leaves and comes back, her recall is not necessarily that clear. Therefore, she's not believed anymore. To identify the pedigree of the child. Chayo upeteres chavrosel. A woman, let's say, the Gemara will explain. Asufi hodamar. Asufi, which case we just said. A child's in the street, abandoned, and before somebody claims the child, the parents come and say, that's our child. The child does not assume the status of an Asufi. No, it definitely wouldn't be believed. No, she delivered the child. Yes, we do. Establishing the pedigree. What are we doing? This is the pedigree. I just want to go just a little further. Chay, what's Chay the Tanya? Chayo ne'emenes loma ze yotze rishon, ze yotze sheni. Okay, we're speaking about now. What about the question of Bechor? Which child was born first? Which child was born second? Right? Which child's going to get a double portion of the inheritance? Which child's going to get a single portion of inheritance? Ze yotze rishon, ze yotze sheni. Medvar murim shelo yotze b'chozra. It's speaking where she didn't go out and returned. Meaning she's in the birthing location. She just delivered. Both children were born. So as long as she didn't remove herself from that location, we say that she's fully aware of the sequence of the birth. But if she went out and came back, we're concerned that her recollection is not accurate enough. She's no longer by Tomer when she gave birth, right? She put a red string. That's what that to identify which one came out first and which one came out second. Where? Whichever came out first is the Bechor. Whichever opened the womb of the mother first. That child's... No. Right now we're talking, the way the Gemara, Rashi will see, the two pshatim. Right now it's identifying who's the Bechor, who's not the Bechor. That's right now the way we're explaining it. She's testifying who's going to get a double portion. That's going to be a consequence. That's going to be a consequence of the testimony. Timing, correct. No, but afterwards she has to identify timing. Which one came out first? She has to recognize which child came out first.